Alright, good evening. What's up, YouTube? I'm definitely doing a life revamp. I did my workout, I didn't wash my clothes, and I was going through because, again, like I said, I feel it very important to keep your promises. And I did tell the lady that I was going to put together for her a dispatch resume. Now, when I thought about that, again, back to the topic of me doing things for people or doing things requested by people or per someone's mentioned that are just completely not necessary and undeserving. Now, I went to this interview. I told this person verbally and in writing, the initial contact person, with this, I listed the time, the date, the place, you know, make sure that you leave a message with the cashier. As far as I know, there was no message left with the cashier. The person was very vocal about it. She was just like, "Ain't nobody asked nothing about you, nothing about you," and the and it was not met. You know what I'm saying? And so I was disappointed in that. And because of that, it cost me time, energy, money, and spirit, morale, all of that. Because I got there on time. I did exactly what I said I would. I even went out of my way, in addition to that, and made a name tag that says Maria. And when I went to speak to the person, to speak to the cashier, they didn't know anything about it. So I had another cashier actually let me use the phone to call. The number was to the office. The office called the lady on the other line and had her meet me at the cashier's front at the cashier. Now, yesterday, which was Saturday, I got a text, which I guess was initially sent on Friday, but I just got it yesterday, saying that she was waiting up by the cash register. You didn't have to wait to look for me. How is she going to look for me if she doesn't know what I look like? I told her specifically, and we agreed because I said, "Is it going to be a problem?" She said, "No." I told her to ask the cashier that you're, expecting someone to be joining them. You know, if someone by the name of Maria Willoughby, if they didn't want to leave their name. But no, she said she stood up at the cash register to look for me. Why is she standing up at a cash register to look for me when she doesn't know what I look like? Okay, number two. Just like an interviewer has a checklist, as an interviewee, I have one too because I'm tired of working for scam companies. I'm tired of working with scam companies, tired of dealing with scam people. I've been to myself for a while, which is fine, but it's time for me to get back out there. And with it being time for me to get back out there and do my thing, I can't. And the neighbors, there are no neighbors. The guy that used to live in the lot next door is blasting like some rock and roll music, and it's like 11 o'clock at night. Now, if it was something productive he was doing that's actually helping him to do something productive with his life, maybe it wouldn't be so annoying, but it's annoying. You gotta be like 50 years old and you're sitting in a parking lot with the music blasting. But there's actually absolutely nothing that I can do about that. So, my goal right now, because I've already gone through that, they went so far as to tear down the house and whatever. My goal right now, because I've done everything I could with that situation, I've talked to the landlord, I've talked to them. So, my goal is just to improve me so I can find a better situation for myself. Okay? So, that's that. But, again, an interviewee checklist. Did they display good customer service? No. And then when I actually got to sit down and talk with them, just so rude. Before the interview could close, and I always believe in letting the other person be wrong. The lady that was I guess the I forgot what her title was. Let me look it up. And title's not important. Basically, she's running things between the two of them. She was on the cell phone and so rude. And while I was talking business about the interview, her mannerisms was like, I was over talking the person on the phone. And it wasn't even anything, major. And then on top of that, I asked, what were they looking for? The top three things they were looking for realistically, because they were saying that everybody was doing a little bit of everything. And so instead of telling me, outside of the sales portion, instead of telling me what they were looking for, she tells me, oh, they're looking for drivers and dispatch and all of this, that, and the other. So I'm like, okay, there's got to be a reason she's telling me this. So I'm like, oh, okay, are these the job positions that posted on Craigslist as well? I don't know, is the dispatch posted yet? No, it hasn't been posted yet. And I was like, oh, I could put something, that seems like a very good position. There may be other positions I'm going to be qualified for. Dispatch sounds interesting as well. I may be qualified for that as well. I could put something together if you'd like. But the resume that I had actually had dispatch information on there. It was broken down into teleservices and sales. And as part of that breakdown that I provided, and I was so disappointed because that's just, you know, it shows lead generation. It's broken down into customer service and administrative slash dispatch. What more can you ask for? And so I was upset about, and part of that's my fault too, because, you know, had I noticed that I wouldn't even have to look at it, I could have sold myself on that point right then and there. But I was like, I'll put something together and have it to you by Monday. But I'm like, they don't deserve that. You know, first of all, when I got there, they should have said something at the cashier's desk or whatever. Nothing was said. So you cost time and me walking back and forth. Number two, you're rude. We're in an interview. You're on a phone, and I'm talking about interview stuff, and you're acting like that's an annoyance. Number three, when the interview starts, you don't have anything to say, so you're wasting my time. So I have to start the interview. Number four, I'm given a email address. That's a personal email address. It's not even a company email address, and I don't want to confuse the company and private. Then she's asking me if I have any other email addresses, and I told her no, because as far as it's concerned with work, the email address that I'm using, that's the one that I'm using for work-related items. You don't need to know anything else about my personal life because this is not personal business. My personal life is my personal life. It's completely separate. So they basically bombed the fell on that. And, because I opened my mouth, my eager beaver, wanting to please self so quickly, I felt like I was obligated to send another resume, but I didn't. What I sent was a nice little note saying, thank you for the interview. Dear X and X, thank you so much for the interview. I've decided to pursue other interests. Sincerely, me. So that's it, and I'm going to do an interview checklist. That's going to be part of my job search thing. I'm going to have a checklist, and when I go on these interviews, I'm going to be looking at them like they're looking at me. It's not all about, for me, it's not all about money. That's the same thing with people. But the good thing I wanted to say about that I learned at church today is that, not everybody are bad people. There was some good people that I picked out of there or that picked me out. Now, what I do want to say is this, that I have bumped, and I know everything is not always what it seems. The world has changed a lot since I was raised, and changed a lot from the values that I was raised upon, obviously. And I'm kind of stuck in third gear, whatever gear it was I was raised on, but things have changed a lot. And I remember running into this young boy. He had to be like 20, 21. And, I asked him about church, not because I'm a holy person, but just conversation, do you go? And he was just like, he had this really nervous look on his face, and he was like, I don't trust churches. So I don't know what his experience was. This was like a passing conversation. But I wondered, and I didn't, we were probably on a bus or something. I didn't want to, have that deep conversation on the bus where everybody jumps in and attacks or their energy just jumps in. So, I wondered what was the experience that he had that made him say that. Because I wouldn't say that I don't trust churches, but I would say that they definitely are not what they're panned out to be. But I also understand I could look at it from one point of view and say that he didn't trust them because, they are funded by the government. They're nonprofits. So, when you see them having politicians come in and lobby, and this one church that I talked about, they were promoting the flu virus, the flu vaccine. And when I went back and I talked to the pastor one-on-one later, just asking him about, different theories and things, he was like, oh no, don't get this and don't get that. But I'm like, sir, do you realize that a year or so ago, you actually had a person representing that come in? So he was talking out of the side of his mouth. Unless he just got old and senile and forgot. But anyways, I have a new regimen for me. I'm working on being more assertive and demanding respect. That's not me by nature. I'm a loving person by nature, and it's definitely all about somebody else. But, it's time for me to demand. So I have to have some type of foundation. You can't have a foundation if everybody's throwing you everywhere. So, that's the end of my time for this recording.